When talking about a particular commodity, how the production happens from A to Z, if you think about it, well, the deposit first has to be found, right? And then after it is found, it has to be mined, and then after it's mined, it has to be processed into the finished product, and that processing includes refining it to the final product. So let's talk about the exploration side of the business first. When it comes to finding or exploring for a particular deposit, usually the way it happens is you might have a geologist or some entrepreneur like this that find a particular area interesting, whether it might be an area that's close to an existing mine, or some other reasons that a particular area is interesting, whether it's next to an existing mine, or maybe they did some kind of scanning of the earth, or other uses of technology that told them that, oh, this particular area could be interesting, and we might find something valuable in the ground. After they find a particular area interesting, the way to find out whether something is really there is really through drilling. So there's different types of drilling. There is and what I mean by drilling is, like, if you look at this, let's say this is a deposit, and the only way to find out how much of it is, what's the composition, is to drill holes into the ground and then take out samples, and then those samples then are sent to the lab, independent lab, and they are studied for the composition, what kind of recoveries they can get from it, and then based on the data they can the more that they drill, the more certainty they can get as to how much of a particular commodity is in there. After, let's say, one hole hits and finds mineralization, then that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a successful deposit, because obviously there has to be enough of the material in there to make it economic to later build a mine and construct the treatment facility. There has to be enough of it. Just like, let's say if you had bars of gold in the backyard that was hidden by your grandfather, it's going to cost you something in labor or equipment to get it out of the ground. So if there's a lot of gold in the ground, it's worth your while to invest in equipment and labor to get it out. But if in the end you find out that there's not enough, well, then you just wasted all this time and energy trying to take it out. So after your original studies showed that there's mineralization in a particular area, in order to find out more or delineate the deposit, you have to do a lot more drilling. And after you do a lot more drilling, then you can define the resource. You see, a resource, here's the resource, and within the resource you have different classification of the resource. You can have a resource And within that resource, you can have what's called inferred, measured, and indicated. And within measured and indicated, you have proven and probable. And these are different classification based on how closely spaced your holes are. And when you have a classification that's called inferred, it's not as certain as the measured and indicated category. And to get even more certain, you have to get it to the proven and probable. And it all depends on, how closely your holes are to each other. And based on that classification, you can construct various feasibility studies or economic studies that tell you whether a particular deposit is economic. In other words, what is the net present value of a particular deposit, and that net present value takes into account how much of the material is in there, how much you're going to be able to extract over the years, how much you're going to make, what your expenses are going to be, and what is going to be the capital expenditure to put the thing into production.